Good morning and welcome to The Education is your weekly source of Minecraft gaming in the classroom. This is the Teacher SMP with PYP with Nico. Now, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe and follow on the following platforms. Yes, we are getting ready to play some survival. And today our topic, I almost fell in there. Today the topic for our session is, of course, game-based learning versus gamification. Is there a difference? There be a difference? What does it mean for you as an educator? And while we're discussing this topic, please leave a comment into the chat. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and add them into the chat. Hi Rhonda, excellent. I am very happy that you're here and watching. And let's get started. So game-based learning and gamification at a very quick glance can seem to be the very same thing. They're very similar. Maybe yours truly has used them in an interchangeable way. However, that wasn't a good jump. However, not the same thing. There is a distinction. There's a difference. Now, where I heard you. Somewhere in the shadows. There is a, or is there? Well, okay, let's continue. So, there is a difference with the two terms, and especially the way that when we really think about how do we understand the use of either game-based learning or gamification of learning. Now, so what is game-based learning really? So for me, I think the answer is pretty clear. A game-based learning is a type of a learning activity that happens within a game framework. It has specific learning objectives. There are measurable outcomes. And on the other hand, gamification is when we bring in the game elements into the actual classroom. So that's the big difference, I feel. And so what does that mean? What does that mean as an educator? What does this mean for the learning experience within the classroom? And this is really tied up with the ideas that I was talking in my previous episode as well. All right, I need to also pay attention to the game now for a little while and see what's in here. Ah, excellent. Okay. So I need to collect some wood so I can build a fence around this village to make sure that we'll be safe. Okay. So the things, if you're really wondering about the gamification element, well, the thing is, we can think of it like we can separate the students into different tribes. We can build factions, and the students get XP points from doing things correctly, or they lose their XP points if they are not following the game rules, i.e. the essential agreements in the classroom. Or gamification is that you get badges. You can basically get like micro credentials. Gamification could be that that there's a random types of activities if the students successfully finalize some activities, then they get XP. With the XP they can then get different types of rewards. Now the problem for me is that this really is an external rewarding type of system. I don't think that whenever I am myself immersed in the game, I don't do it because necessarily just of that sort of external rewards. I do it because I'm learning that game. So the game itself is the intrinsic motivation for me. So that in itself then gives me a small problem, because then I'm really wanting to make sure that the students, let me just empty my, oh no, I want blanks. I want the students to be able to be intrinsically motivated. So gamifying the classroom per se on its own really feels artificial to me. Unless, of course, then the whole learning is game-based. which I doubt that that would happen. So in gamification, in a nutshell, the end result, the points, the rewards, being first place, completing as much as possible, can easily become the focus rather than the learning. And that's where I want the focus to be. So whenever I'm using the elements of games in the classroom, I want the focus to be always learning. And so what's the difference then? What's the difference on, bringing in or taking away that the reward is no longer relevant or it is removed? And when we start thinking about having that, instead of those external point systems, the game itself is what drives the learning. So if it's designed well, game-based learning has the capacity to harness students' intrinsic learning. So making Minecraft to be part of their learning will always have that element of intrinsic learning, because it's not necessarily the content that the game is enhancing, but rather it is going to be the actual either conceptual understandings or social emotional skills that we are targeting. And that's where then the game-based learning enhances the student experience. Okay, now I need to make those fences now and start protecting the barrier. Ooh. Is it here where I heard them? Mobs, yes, I think that's where they are. Okay. Oh, I only have 3. Oh, okay. I need more sticks first. I guess now I can only get these. I don't know. Has it gone into... Oh, it has. Okay. No, I want... Okay, there you go. So stick. Then we'll make fences. Now, as I said, it is really important to have the game based learning to be well planned. There needs to be authentic connection to this. It's not something that I just made a mistake. It's not something that we can just say, oh, I like to play something, let's bring it on. The plan needs to happen because it's something that you feel that will bring more value, something of that because you feel strongly about, then you're going to see it through and you're going to be putting that effort in. Because to be honest, I mean, there are easier ways to set up your classroom. Like, and there is a dedication of time into it that you, as a teacher, at some point you'll be second guessing yourself. You're like, oh no, is this really? Are the students learning? You are going to be creating an environment where conflict can happen. And because those moments of conflict then are actually going to be those teachable moments, those teachable elements that you're really trying to get going, that you're going to that you're really hoping that happens. So that's why it's not just the student buying, but it's really your buy-in into the game-based learning and why this is important for you to be able to justify yourself. Now, having said that, there is research that is done for game-based learning. What we already know is that there is a correlation between motivation, engagement, complex problem solving, and social emotional skills. This is kind of the idea that we've gone from learning through failure to the shift from fixed mindset to the growth mindset, so that the students are much more likely to embrace that they are not mastering the skill right away, but instead that they need to practice, that they need to create an understanding through games. That's the experience for that kind of learning happens quite often in a game. That's the kind of... Oh, your house, okay. You go in, I'll go and find myself another place. Another bad jump. What, do I have someone? No. So the nature of learning through failure and the mastery in games, it really naturally lends itself developing that growth mindset, and that is really the type of experience that what we want to be, or what I want to be, distilling into our students, that they will be realizing that learning that they do in my classroom or in any learning that they do, that should lead towards building their knowledge, skills, and understanding, and that sort of mastery outlook, that and that it's a challenge, so that it's not always easy. So we're not trying to sugarcoat it. Like game, that's a one misconception that I feel that there is that bringing a game-based learning into a classroom is that what sometimes happens is people think that it's so that students are having fun whilst learning. That is a side product. I more think it's more of an example of how it can be challenging, how it can be hard, and that we're bringing that sort of an experience that you need to try multiple times before you might succeed. That learning requires an effort from the learner, that it's not always served. And that's maybe my biggest argument also against these sort of edutainment types of experiences, where I feel that authentic gaming is always a better choice. Whereas when it's built for education, it is usually pedagogically questionable. So now that we've defined gamification, which is to bring those game type elements into the classroom, versus game based, which means more of using a game with learning objects. So then it is the question of, well, where do you get those learning outcomes from? And that is also where Minecraft is, as a sandbox game, in my mind, it is extremely useful to teachers, because for a lot of things, especially for your social, emotional, and self-management skills, you can use whatever game that is multiplayer. Now, then the next part is, so, okay, what type of content, what type of an environment is appropriate for school? And for me, the obvious answer is that, well, and why Minecraft ticks all the boxes, is that because you can make Minecraft into really, it's so versatile that you can make Minecraft into almost whatever you want it to be. Um, it's an obvious choice for me. But what about to people who don't know Minecraft? Well, I think the elements for Minecraft is, as you can see, there's no one other, I'm playing by myself, and I can still get a great gaming experience. I can follow up a plan. I am not tied up with that, others aren't here, so I cannot play. I can follow a plan. I can communicate my experiences with others. I can make sure that what I'm doing is part of what my group wants. So then there is that element. So what I'm doing is that I'm literally extending and enhancing what the learning engagement period was. I'm extending it beyond the classroom time. And at the same time, we can talk about also the demands for Minecraft. What I really like right now is that Minecraft has been made into a very low setup game. So basically, if this is something that the school sees that it's valuable, and if a school is already a Microsoft 365 Office, 360 Office school, then you already have Minecraft, the Education Edition. So there are different editions that we can have. So that already makes Minecraft so much more usable. Now, and yeah, and the different editions, of course, at first one might feel that, okay, it's actually hard. Like, how does a teacher know which edition to choose? And that's where I feel that the Minecraft Education Edition website does a really good job of laying it out. The school IT department can put everything ready, or if you're a small school, you don't have an IT department, you're more of an enthusiast, you can get that set up fairly easily, and you can be playing Minecraft already tomorrow if you so want. Now, for those who are gamers themselves, those teachers who see value in gaming, maybe beyond what a casual teacher with an inclination to gaming, they then might want to go beyond the Education Edition. I think Education Edition is a good kind of a startup, especially if you're running Minecraft as a club, or it's kind of like a good starting point. But then if you want to take student creativity further, if you really are thinking of gaming as an extension of play, so that we can have play-based learning up in the upper grades, then you want to look at the other versions of Minecraft. You want to be thinking about Bedrock Edition to enable crossplay. You can, or you want to look at Java Edition. You want to look at some sort of coding opportunities, authentic coding opportunities. Now, once I mention coding, people get really hung up. Say, yeah, but you got the coding element in the education edition, which you don't have anywhere else. And yes, that is true. So if you are not into coding yourself, if you are not an experienced coder, then again, I would start off with the education edition. Use the hour of code connections and start. That's a great place to start from. But let's go back into the topic. So game-based learning, what happens is that you will see that the students become more engaged with their learning. Now, this only happens if it is not used as a reward, that it is kind of like in the center of that learning, that it's valued. They go from struggling to finding a way to overcome that struggle and start looking for solutions and innovating strategies. And what's really important is to start making those connections visible, so that when the students aren't necessarily able to at first to get those connections. So that's where you as a facilitator need to or come in. This is what makes, this is where the teacher's role is. Right? So that you are going to be making those connections and making sure that the students start realizing what types of connections they're making and how they can use their gaming experience in a different way, and how that is relevant. Okay, let's get some. Oh. And so as I said at the very beginning, it is hugely important that we have those goals, we have those learning outcomes that we want to achieve. And when we have those, that is going to then help you to facilitate the learning experience in the classroom so that it becomes less of a struggle to you. Now, so what about then? We have our goal and we want to be able to measure. We want to be able to measure that we've succeeded, that we have really succeeded in our use of game, that it actually is making a difference. What do we do? Well, for me, my favorite part in this area is to really use a framework. I want to use observations, and I really want to and the reason why I want to use observations is that I don't want to necessarily make it about the content. I want to make it about the process and the experience that the students are going through, and and to really look closely. So when I'm looking closely, I really like to use a framework from Action by Design, so that I'm looking closely for the behavior and actions in the online environment, but also then in the physical environment. I really like a an environment, a learning environment, physical learning environment where students have opportunities to be in charge of their learning, and how to do that authentically, and how to do that. How do I know that they are making those choices? How do I look at my students when how do I give them strategies or support their strategies, rather, that they are able to move forward, make the right choices? What kind of strategies do they need? And so Action by Design allows me to focus my observations to a particular element. I am looking closely at how the environment is supporting the student. Also, I am looking at it from the perspective of how is it improving, making the learning experience better. Is it equitable? Are all students benefiting, or some students benefiting more? And if some students are benefiting more, what changes can I make in order to get all of my students benefiting? Are the needs of all students the same, or are there individual differences between the students and their needs? And so all of this can be done whilst the students are interacting in a physical and virtual learning environment. And to how that happens in the classroom, well, one of the ways is to bring a sort of a hybrid learning experience in with the station rotation model, for instance, which means that the students are doing different learning at a different time. And that's where it's really important as a teacher to be able to bring in the virtual learning, because what we're doing then is that we're allowing the learning not to be dependent upon just face-to-face time, but we're also bringing in an element of where students can also choose according to how they're feeling. Which in this case is really important. So if you have any questions about any specifics about how to use game-based learning in the classroom, please pop that in the chat, or connect with me on my social media platforms. So you can think of it as a way of DMing me, or if you just want to play. So join me on Minecraft Gaming on Teacher SMP. It does not have to be this live stream. If you just want to play and learn to use Minecraft through game-based learning, you're more than welcome to connect with me. My social media, easiest way to kind of get in contact with me, if of course, to Twitter with PYP with Nico, or in Instagram, Nico Lumen. And that is it for today. I'm looking forward seeing you next week again. Take care, everyone, and thanks for watching.